Welcome to the last chapter of the book, chapter 14. We're in geometry. Our essential question for this chapter is, how are different ideas about geometry connected? We're going to be drawing points, lines, and rays, and we'll explain what all of those are through this lesson. A point is an exact location that is represented by a dot. A line is a straight set of points that extends in opposite directions without ending. Example number 1. Molly drew the figure she drew. The figure extends in opposite directions. You see the arrows extending out beyond. The arrows indicate that it extends without ending. It is a line. This line is labeled with the point X and point Y. There are different ways to represent this line, such as line XY or XY with the line and the arrows over it. So Molly drew a line. Now, purple box that has our key concepts. You may want to mark this page. A line is a straight set of points that extends in opposite directions without ending. So here's our model of a line. A ray is a part of a line that has one endpoint and extends in one direction without ending. So here's the endpoint, and the ray extends out and forever that way. So that makes a ray. A line segment is a part of a line between two endpoints. So you'll notice this one doesn't have the arrows on both sides. So this is a segment with two ending points. That makes it a line segment. Okay, now we're looking at a different shape here, a different drawing. Draw a figure that could be represented by CD. CD represents a line segment with endpoints C and D. So how I would draw that is I would have two endpoints. Doesn't matter how far apart they are. They could be this close together. They could be this far apart as long as they're in a straight line. They could be very short as long as they are labeled C, D. Those are two different options to show example number 2, how that would look. Now if you look at example number 3, you'll notice it has an endpoint and it has an arrow that extends out. Even though it has 2 points on the line, because it extends on past that, that would be a ray. So that's example number 3. You are to do the same idea through the guided practice. Label each of these shapes with the correct label given what you can see in the picture. So if you're stuck, you can look back at the purple box on the front page and it will help you label all these different lines, rays, and segments. And on page 875, that continues, doing more of identifying each of the figures that are shown for you. At the bottom, you're going to have to draw them, so you're going to have to pay attention to what it says or what you see in order to get the correct figure drawn according to what information you're given in the problem. So let's do, for instance, number 13. Since it has an S and an N, I'm going to label those points, and since I'm dealing with all rays, lines, and line segments, all are in a straight line, so I'm going to put them in a straight line. And this says I see arrow on both ends, so that means I'm going to draw the line between them, but I'm going to extend it out beyond both of those points that I've labeled, and that would be a line, because it extends on in both directions. Now that's number 13. If I'm looking at something like number 11, and I see the points C and R, I can draw those points. And I see that there's only an arrow over the R, so I'm going to start the line here and extend it out past the R, just like it shows in the what's shown on number 11. Something like AW is a line segment, so that would be written points that do not have an arrow extending past them. If you're looking at confused by number 9, you would simply draw a point and label it T. That's all you have to do when it says point. So that's number 9. Hopefully that allows you to get through all the rest of the problems. I've given you one example of each of what's shown, and you should be able to extrapolate that onto the other problems that you've got here. Okay, so on the problem solving, what we're looking at is identify the figure that is shown on the stop sign. So they're referring to this blue line that's here. What is that? Is that a ray, a line, or a line segment? That's what they want you to write. That, I think, is the figure shown on the stop sign. To write a complete sentence there. Okay. Use a pencil to draw a different type of traffic sign than a stop sign. Then use a crayon or line segment. So I might want to draw something like a yield sign. And then I would just label a line segment. Oops, there we go. Now you can see it. So that's my line segment at the top of the yield sign. And you can fancy it up if you want. Now, name 3 real-world examples of line segments. So something that you use in life that would be a line segment. There's an idea. You might have something like this that has an endpoint and an endpoint on the other side. So those are some ideas for you that you might want to write about for number 17. Okay, draw a line segment that is greater than 2 inches and less than 5 inches. So please, you might need a ruler for that one to draw greater than 2 and less than 5. You're going to have a couple different options, or several options in between those that you can choose. Okay, explain the similarities and differences of lines and line segments. So compare and contrast line segments. What's the same about them and what is different about them? If you have missed your full hour to complete the activities in the lesson, you should be continuing on to the homework. And I noticed there is a vocabulary check section, and that tends to be a challenge. But please use options they've given you here, and one of these what the clue they're giving you here is. So make sure that use these and don't create your own to help you answer each of these. So it looks like you'll be using each once on each of there. Okay, so they've got the correct way to represent the figure. I'm trying to get you to see the figure as well as my video. Well, you've got your figure in your book, and you're looking for, just because it's diagonal does not mean it's not a line. If you've got this shape, is it a ray? Is it a segment? Or is it a line? And remember, a ray is can be labeled that way. A segment would just be this line without any arrows, and a line would be labeled this way. So choose the option that best matches what you see on your book. And that'll get you through the homework as well.